Boa tarde a todos. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Some of you have been here with us for a little bit. We've been chit-chatting in both languages. This is truly an international gathering. We're going to keep it in both languages as we move forward. So once again, good afternoon to all. Good afternoon to those of you who are following us as well on the social media platforms. And good afternoon to those who are attending, the students, community members, lots of folks from different Portuguese American organizations. We thank each and every one of you for being here this afternoon. Welcome to an incredibly special event for us at the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, PBBI, at Fresno State. In February of 2019, 2 years ago, we launched the Institute. It came to fruition thanks to a 2-year grant from the Luso-American Development Foundation, FLAD, from whom we hope to have continued support, and also the vision of the administration at California State University, Fresno. Its vision, and right from its inception, from the first day that PBBI was thought of, we've had as one of our strongest allies our now interim president, at the time the dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, Dr. Saúl Jimenez-Sandoval, whom we are delighted to have here today. Dr. Saúl Jimenez-Sandoval, of course, as all of you know, is a president of the university, interim president for Fresno State, and he has been also our provost and began as a professor of Spanish and Portuguese. So I don't think there are too many CSUs that have a president that was a professor of Portuguese and Spanish as he began his career in education. A couple words in Portuguese. Portanto, mais uma vez, muito boa tarde a todos. Bem-vindos, é com muito gosto que estamos convosco. Muito obrigado a todos que estão aqui, portanto, na Zoom, e aqueles que estão a acompanhar também nas redes sociais, aos alunos que nos estão a acompanhar como participantes, alunos e membros da nossa comunidade através, particularmente, do estado da Califórnia. Como eu disse em inglês, temos muito gosto em ter o presidente interino da universidade, que foi primeiro e acima de tudo professor de português e espanhol, estudou em Portugal, fala, para além do inglês, fluentemente em espanhol, português e grego, e portanto é com muito gosto que o temos conosco, e ele será o nosso primeiro orador. Welcome, President Saúl Jimenez-Sandoval.
Muito obrigado, Dinis, pelas palavras. Nice to be with you. I'll switch to English, even though it's lovely to speak in Portuguese. I don't get much of a chance, but it's a language that it's deeply meaningful to me. And indeed, the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute was launched, as Dinis said, in 2019. And in the last 2 years, and even in spite of the pandemic, with Dinis's vision and energy and wherewithal, has put forth very ambitious goals. One of these is the collection of the oral history of the Portuguese American legacy in the Central San Joaquin Valley through the College of Social Sciences, which is a collection of oral histories of longtime residents of the San Joaquin Valley that really make up a fundamental part of our legacy here in the region. PBBI also has the flat speaker series involving themes and speakers relevant to all disciplines and areas of research, and certainly with the 3 colleges which PBBI is part of, which is the College of Arts and Humanities. I see Dean Nora Chapman on the Zoom, and also the Associate Dean, Sergio Laporta, the College of Social Sciences, and then the Jordan College of Agriculture, Science, and Technology as well. So these 3 colleges really come together to comprise the breadth and scope of the reach of PBBI, and even within that, it goes much further beyond that. So the focus of the Portuguese Beyond the Institute, Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, has really been outreach to the Portuguese American community, but also to the larger community in general as well, because we want the larger community to really know about these deep roots that the Portuguese American community has within the Valley, and also their incredible contributions through the decades, ever since they've arrived. They've been extremely productive in leaders within our community as well. The other goal, of course, of PBBI is to create a Portuguese American collection that was in effect inaugurated at the Henry Madden Library. We have a special collection of just books from Portugal, which was donated by the Azorean government in a very prominent place of the library. It overlooks this beautiful garden called the Peace Garden at Fresno State, and it's got a beautiful central location as well. Together then with the Department of Media, Communications and Journalism Department, NCJ, they are also spearheading a series of documentaries about the Portuguese presence in the San Joaquin Valley and its connections to the Azores. And this is video that is really taken, and that it's, with the goal of making a long-term type of film that really showcases, again, the impact of the Portuguese in the Valley as well. So considering the work in oral history and all the projects that PBBI has put forth in the last 2 years, it's certainly fitting to see the birth right now of Bruma Publications in partnership with the press at California State University, Fresno. With the university press has a long history of publishing various works, prestigious works related both to the university, to the region, and also to the ethnic experience in the Central Valley. And I just loved, when I first saw the name of Bruma, I immediately was taken to it because it's such a perfect name for publication at Fresno State dealing with Portuguese studies, specifically with a very strong tie to the Azores, because Bruma, of course, in Portuguese is mist, it's haze, but it's also fog, but it's also, it has so many great meanings, haziness, mistiness, but then at the same time, sometimes it's got a little bit of a sense of uncertainty, which is great because, when you're uncertain, you start to produce and you start to be creative. And then pretty soon, the sun breaks through the Bruma, and then you see the full strength of the sun right there with you. And then, you think about, of course, the future. It's hope as well to me. It's full of hope. It's full of, expectations. It's full of a lot of really good dynamic creativity for the future as well. So it's a perfect word, Dinesh, and I'm sure that you were behind that, as always. So the focus then will be to bring through translation some of the voices of the Portuguese-speaking world, to build bridges more than anything, to foster understanding of the cultural perspective and the long history that the Lusophone world has within California, specifically tied to the Azores. So Bruma Publications, with the commitment of the local Portuguese American community, will certainly open doors to the publication of an array of research related to the legacy. And that's really what it is. It's all about that. It's the legacy that immigrants from Portuguese-speaking countries and regions, specifically from the Azores and their descendants, have built in California and the Western United States. We're very thankful to the academics who have agreed to serve on the editorial and advisory boards. Your academic experience and insights and vision will certainly guide and be of utmost importance to Bruma Publications. These are the members. Dinesh Borges is the director. Linda Carvalho Cooley is also part of the editorial board. Eugenia Fernandez from UC Davis, Emiliana Silva from the University of the Azores, and then Michael de Matos from the University of Hawaii. And on the advisory board is Ines Lima, our professor of Portuguese at Fresno State, along with Onésimo Almeida from Brown University, Duarte Silva from Stanford University, Teresa Martins Marques from the University of Lisbon, Renato Alvim from CSU Stanislaus, Devi Avila from Fresno State, our other professor of Portuguese and Spanish at Fresno State, and then Manuel Costa Fontes from Kent State University, also of Humberto Freitas from the University of the Azores, Irene Blair from Brock University in Canada, and Lélia Pereira Nunes from the Federal University of Santa Catarina, no Brazil. So it's a pleasure for me to be part of this, Dinesh. It's very meaningful to me, and I expect incredible, great publications to come through Bruma Publications. Thanks.
Thank you, President Saúl Jimenez-Sandoval. Thank you so much for taking time. I know that you'll need to be leaving soon, but thank you so much for your vision, for your guidance, and for putting up with me in some of my utopian dreams. But anyway,
no, it's always a pleasure, Denise.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And as you said, I certainly appreciate everyone who agreed to be on the editorial board and the advisory board. If this project is going to go forth, it has to be obviously with these academics, with these scholars who are here from various parts of the world, various generations, there's lots of folks, with various experiences. And building upon that is why we asked Professor Onésimo Almeida to be our keynote speaker. And if I take time to read, and I'm not kidding, here they are. There's 6 pages. This is that would be, and that's the Portuguese one. I'm sorry, that's the English one. The Portuguese version was 9 pages, so it would take me about the time that Professor Onésimo has so graciously given to this presentation to be our keynote. And so I'm just going to basically say that some of the most important things about Onésimo, and first and foremost, is that he is probably one of the most generous human beings you will ever meet, ever. He is born in São Miguel, in Pico de Pedra, as one might call it, the autonomous region of Pico de Pedra, and with lots and lots and lots of creative people from that area. He graduated from the Portuguese Catholic University, and he received his master's and his PhD in philosophy from Brown University in 1980. I should say that he was, a prodigy. So he was like, I think 9 when he finished his PhD. That's why, it's been a long time, but he was very, very young. And Onésimo, of course, has been teaching at Brown. Portuguese cultural and intellectual history since 1975, as a full professor since 1991. And he was also the department chair of the Portuguese and Brazilian studies. He also teaches a course on values and worldviews at Saúl Collegium, and as a course for the Center for Early Modern Studies, which he is a member. Onésimo has published widely in Portuguese and English. He is someone that all of us in the Portuguese American world look up to. He is the connection between Portugal and the United States. I could go on and on and on, but I wouldn't embarrass him. I would embarrass myself by missing something. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my deep honor and very thankful that, above all, a very good friend who I trust deeply, Professor Onésimo Almeida, has agreed to give us the keynote for this launching of Bruma. And I should say, one of the major reasons also is Onésimo basically is the pioneer of academic publishing here in the United States, especially when it comes to Portugal and the Azores, for sure. Onésimo Almeida.
As you can see, the keynote address was already delivered by Denise, so thank you, and I'm done. It's really a pleasure to be here. I had never seen Michael de Matos, but he wrote on chat that this is such a fun and close group, and I look at the faces here. There's so many faces that are recognized who are friends, such a serious looking face. Manuel de Costa Fontes is my wife's cousin. It's really family, my wife's cousin. Now, I was chair of my department, but I never became president. President Saúl, from chair of Spanish and Portuguese, to move up that much, I've never gone that far. I see Duarte Silva. This is Bruma Publications, and Duarte Silva. Look at the sky he shows. That's not Azorian at all. He's a preferred Azorian. I mean, you have to have gray sky. Come on, Duarte. Can't you find some gray sky over those Stanford buildings? Anyway, Irene Blay, I haven't seen Irene for a long time, but she has not changed. Like the president, she hasn't changed a bit. Is that an old picture or a real one? Yeah. Goodness. Lélia from Brazil. And then I had never seen Anthony Barcelos, and he made a comment about my library. This is the most I could fake, because if I show you the desks, it doesn't look pretty at all. So I try to make this more neat. So it's really a pleasure. And I wrote something. This is the 25th of February, Dinesh, must be an incredibly important day. There are 4 Zoom events. We have one at the University of William Museum tonight. Francisco Fagundes is giving a talk, and we organized this. I had one at the Portuguese Academy of Science. I just had one in my department. I had this. I wrote this last night. I never reread it. I'm going to reread it for the first time, and it's lousy. It's everything was, all of a sudden, everything was on the 25th. So it must be a big day. So I'll read. I'll read what I have here. It's going to be boring, Mr. President. You have things to do. If you want to just go take off and go and take care of things at the university, please feel free. And I'll read what I have here. What I wrote here, but when thinking about what to say, I was thinking of California and the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute and what you intend to do in California. And so I just jotted down a bunch of thoughts, and so I'll read. For a long time, perhaps too long, the Azorean communities have been an invisible minority in the United States. On the East Coast, space is tighter and the communities are closer together as a result, which enables them to be more easily noticeable. In California, they tend to be spread out and away from the major urban centers. That explains in part their invisibility. There are other reasons. However, a few of them have to do with the traditional ways of the Azoreans, who like to tend to themselves and take care of their lives and business without expecting other people to do anything for them. After a millennium of existence, isolated in the middle of the North Atlantic, without any help from anybody, under the wrath of hurricanes, earthquakes, and often rough seas, was more than enough time for them to learn how to cope with adversity and struggle to survive on their own. A great advantage to the government, local, regional, and national, is that one never hears complaints from them. Having got used to deaf governments for ages, they learn that it is hopeless to wait for anybody to do anything for them if they do not do it themselves. Yes, as of late, California has sent a considerable number of members of Congress to Washington, but they're not there with any particular mandate from the Azorean communities. They are there because they are engaged citizens, and that mandate that made them electable. The Azorean communities like them and enjoy the fact that they have Portuguese surnames, but do not demand anything from them related to their heritage. This worldview and way of life have, as I said, a long history with the particular constraints that shape their way of being, playing a significant role. One of the shaping factors has been geography. Yes, geography, a subject that the American school systems long ago abolished from their curricula, and a good reason why a book like Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel became a huge bestseller for calling the national attention to the role geography has played in the formatting of our minds and the shaping of our beliefs and values. Indeed, geography has profoundly marked the Azorean population for nearly 600 years. Vitorino Nemésio, the Azorean writer who best interpreted the island's culture, affirmed that geography is worth as much as history for Azoreans. The history of the Azores is profoundly connected to the space occupied by the archipelago in the Atlantic Ocean. The Portuguese navigators of the 15th century discovered very early on that it was necessary to establish a support base for their ships there, since winds and maritime currents forced them to dock in those islands during their return from the South Atlantic. The so-called Volta do Largo was coming from the south of the Atlantic. You had to go all the way on, almost touch Brazil. Since winds and maritime currents forced them to dock, the so-called Volta do Largo was long drawn out, subjecting the sailors to weeks or even months of an absence of water and fresh food. Hence, it was necessary to attend to their foremost needs upon arrival in the Azores. Back then, the island of Terceira was chosen for said function by dint of having the best natural port, and there the city of Angra do Heroísmo was founded and rapidly developed. In order to make it possible to resupply the ships, which would still take another 3 weeks' journey to get to Lisbon, the first settlers, who were brought from the interior of Portugal to the Azores Islands with the mission of cultivating the island lands, always lived in surrender to the cultivation of the incredibly fertile soil that the island's volcanic nature afforded. That is to say that the existence of the archipelago fulfilled the imperative of playing a vital role in the grand plan that we today know resulted in the first strains of globalization. It was, at that time, their strongest reason to live. During the era of Philippine control, 1580 to 1640, when Portugal lost its independence to Spain, the Azores was a depot for Spanish ships coming from Central and South America, thus confirming the island's fundamental importance as a crossroads of passages and of support service for transcontinental connections. After the energy that brought the Portuguese to India, Japan, and China petered out, Azorians began to feel wholly hopeless and abandoned. Years later, at the beginning of the 18th century, the kingdom recognized the urgency of sending colonists to the south of Brazil, reminding themselves accordingly of the existence of the islanders who had remained isolated and aimless in the middle of the Atlantic. The kingdom decided to draw on its surplus demographic, sending colonists to occupy territory that the Spanish sought to control from Uruguay, robbing Brazil's land. That was the first great bridge to the western side of the Atlantic, above all to Santa Catarina, where Lélia lives, and Rio Grande do Sul. Still in the second half of that same century, American whaling ships also began to dock in the archipelago for reasons identical to those that had brought the Portuguese to use the islands as a transatlantic connection base, transforming it into a vital support base for their journeys, as well as into a precious source of labor. Therefore, it was those people whose lives had traditionally centered on the land that became mariners on the North American whaling ships and took their chances on routes through the South Atlantic and the Pacific, even to Alaska. The great American author of that epic, Herman Melville, capitulated, not noting in his classic Moby Dick that he does not know why, but the islanders, Azorians, Icelanders, and Cape Verdeans are the best whalers. Today, that phrase is printed in a room at the Whaling Museum in New Bedford, Massachusetts, a symbolic space that narrates the grand epic of the first Azorian nexus to that which is today often called the 10th island of the Azores. Those who immigrated to South America left weaker traces, but fortunately, their memory began to reignite half a century ago. In effect, for a long time, Brazil was the land of the forgotten for Azorians. North America, on the contrary, integrated the islander imagination from early on. Just like in Stormy Isles by Vitorino Nemésio, the search in the 15th century for a supposed 10th island north of the Azores, symbolized the search for an impossible happiness for the novel's main character. Since Azorians, who in the flesh always experienced tough hardships and manifold material shortages, did not believe that their lands were the fortunate islands or islands of happiness, the Macaronesia about which the Greeks spoke. Macaronesia in Greek is Makari, Nisia, islands of happiness. So this is how the Greeks thought of those islands around Atlantida where islands of people lived in happiness. That's associated with the idea of Atlantis and Plato, but that's another subject. I'm not going to get into it. And it was thus that the American dream gradually took shape. As the Californians lost in abundance, this is a quote, attest in the poem A Ilha, the island, by the Flores-born poet Pedro da Silveira. Meanwhile, by the time of whaling, Horta on the island of Fayal had already come to be the international connection pole. It was there that the whaling ships first docked, coming from New England as much as from the South Atlantic. The relationship between the islands and the American continent intensified when, in the era of steam navigation, ships traveling between Europe and America would stop at the island. However, the role of the Azores was revitalized from the moment in which it was deemed necessary to connect North America to Europe and later to Southern Africa via submarine cable. During the First and Second World Wars, the recognition of the Azores' strategic importance strongly reinforced the Azorean connection to America. Resumed not only from the island of Terceira, but also from the island of Santa Maria, as propeller planes, part of incipient commercial aviation, needed a refueling spot in the middle of the Atlantic. The archipelago's last great period of a sense of relevance arose upon the realization that in a non-nuclear conflict, the geographic location of the Azores was crucial for the United States and consequently for Europe. From then to now, the world has much changed. After the 25th of April of 1974, when a political revolution in Portugal cut the cord with a past that insisted on delaying the country's future, the European Union followed and the Azorean option became clear, despite some tough moments. All ended up in its proper place with the affirmation of the Azorean collective cultural personality's roots, forged over 500 years of isolation and subjection to the fury of the elements, constantly inconstant. During that half millennium, the government of Lisbon was a distant power, and only God would be able to aid and secure land that vomited fire and frequently trembled. In that last quarter of the 20th century, senses of neglect, resentment, and abandonment were overcome. And the connection between the Portuguese continent and the islands was reinforced, now with a new legal standing, that of the autonomy. The Azores came to constitute an autonomous region of the Portuguese Republic politically. Deep down, nonetheless, the Azores had always been a pyramid whose top rung of the socioeconomic ladder was inclined to Lisbon. It was on the continent that the local elite studied, while the base, in fact, much larger from afar in absolute terms, turned to America, even in those matters that concerned the population that never left the archipelago. The North American universe weighed so much on the Azorean imagination that one day, when a man from Pico was asked if he had already gone to America, he responded, "Personally, I've never gone." Challenged by two great magnetic forces, that of European cultural roots and that of the gratitude of the less privileged classes directed toward America due to the satisfying of their basic needs, since the 1950s, we have to speak of North America as including Canada, Azoreans forged a collective personality to which we habitually refer as identity, as profound as the depths of the sea that surrounds the islands. Nothing undermines that soundness, however much one tries. This is perhaps too much of a digression. So let me turn around and talk a little about matters more directly related to the initiative that brought us here together today, the launching of a press dedicated to publishing books on Azorean topics. The Azores has a long tradition of interest in books. Of course, I will not claim that this applies to every single Azorean, but the collective tradition is quite impressive. Indeed, how many people among my listeners would believe that the islands have had more than 600 different newspapers throughout their history, and today still publishes 4 dailies. Does any of you know that the 3rd oldest newspaper in Europe, Suriano Oriental, is published in São Miguel? This could be just the start of a long journey that could easily fill the 25 minutes I was given as the length of my chat. When I asked Dinis Borges how long should I talk, his answer was, Father Marta, a priest in Interlock for many years, said that no sermon was deserving of its name if it was not at least 25 minutes long. The time I have left, however, is not much, so I must get to the point. The Portuguese Minister of Foreign Affairs has recently realized that the Portuguese communities abroad, the Portuguese diaspora, were an essential tool that Portugal should use in the global chess that nations typically play. He decided to raise the national consciousness on diaspora matters by creating a book series with Portuguese immigrants' works, and he appointed me for the editorial board. When the editorial boards met to survey the field, there was a disproportionate number of authors on my list from Portuguese America, most of them Azorians. That was a surprise for them. Not even in mainland Portugal are people aware that the Azores have a long, vibrant tradition in book publishing that comes from way back. Some Azorian writers, like Antero de Quental and Teófilo de Braga, have become so much a part of the national canon that nobody thinks of them as Azorians. But the Azorians keep track of them. This tradition continues on to this day. There's one press, Letras Lavadas, in Ponta Delgada, São Miguel, a town of 40,000 people that publishes an average of 1 book a week. That is remarkable for an island of 170,000 people. Other presses and institutions throughout the islands publish books regularly. But Pico, an island of just about 11,000 inhabitants, has a nationally known press, Companhia das Ilhas, with a catalogue of more than 100 volumes. And there are others such as Instituto Nacional de Cultura. Salamandra was another example, an Azorian publisher dared to publish an Azorian press in Lisbon, and in the span of a dozen years, he published more than 100 Azorian books. If we move now to the Portuguese American scene, we can easily see that this Azorian tradition of interest in books has not died out with the Atlantic crossing. Recently, a book by a Spanish researcher, Alberto Pena Rodrigues, whom I brought to Brown with the help of the Luz American Foundation and did his research on Portuguese American press, produced an incredible amount of information about Portuguese American newspapers and magazines on both coasts. It is, in fact, mind-boggling the number of publications that have appeared in the Portuguese communities, even though many of them were short-lived. I'm almost done, but I'll break here. One day, many of you may remember that Dinis organized these conferences in Tulare on the Portuguese heritage, Portuguese American heritage, for about 12 years, I think. I went to quite a few of them. And one day, there was a person that I recognized. He was a professor from Universidade Nova in Lisbon who had gotten a scholarship to spend 1 year doing research at Berkeley. So he heard about it and went there. Still, to this day, he tells me that he was so impressed with the amount, the diversity, and the depth of the reflection that appeared, was obvious in the papers presented by the people there, that he had never seen that anywhere. It were Portuguese American people, Azorian people from the Azores, people from Canada, from the US, that Dinis gathered, and people talked from various angles, literary, historic, culture, whatever. Papers were presented about our Portuguese American experience, and Tito Cardoso Cunha was completely flabbergasted. He still tells this to me today. Many Portuguese Americans have published books about their Portuguese American experience. The list is long, and there is a rich tradition of scholarship studying them. Alfred Lewis in California, an immigrant from the island of Flores, learned English well enough to have a book accepted by Random House in 1951 that got over 80 reviews all over the United States. Timothy Freitas, another immigrant from the same island, is considered the founder of Wyoming literature, for God's sake, with 3 plays to his name. I could go on and on, but let us stick to presses. Many books were published in the United States, particularly in Massachusetts, in the first decades of the 20th century. But even before that, one of the best historian writers of the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, Garcia Monteiro, he himself editor of a newspaper, published a book in Boston that is now considered the best example of human literature written by Portuguese authors of the time. There were also many booklets published there, that were lost, and we only have notices of them from the back covers of some that survived, listing other titles in the series. Would you like, for instance, the respectable John Hay Library of Brown University specializes in the 19th and 20th, early 20th century American poetry and theater. One of the precious discoveries I made was a booklet published in Fall River in 1922 by an immigrant from Arifes, São Miguel, land of lavradores, farmers. I am sure that the librarian who wrote the card had no idea that he or she was typing. He or she just transcribed what was on the frontispiece. Thanks to the meticulous and professional work, we now have notice of the booklet and the booklet itself. Actually, who is great-granddaughter came to Brown to see the only existing sample of the book by her great-grandfather in the world, because she knew from a note that I had written that the book is housed at the John Hay Library at Brown. Thus, I simply joined an old tradition when I started Bruma Publications in 1980, 8 years after arriving in the United States. But other initiatives followed. The University of Massachusetts Dartmouth came out with Tagus Press, today with an impressive catalog. Gavia Brown has joined Tagus Press, and I think that this cooperation has been bearing great fruit. Anthony Barcelos has a book published by Tagus Press. I have to mention particularly some publications which José Brich, a former student of mine, kept alive for many years, adding title after title until his life took a turn that prevented him from continuing his notable effort. In San Jose, California, José Rodrigues and Tony Goulart started Portuguese American Heritage Publications, and the catalog they have produced is remarkable, more precisely impressive. Amongst them, in light of everything I have said, it should not come as a surprise the fact that out of Fresno, a new publishing venture emerges. Anyone who knows Dinis Borges is aware of the fact that while all of us get older by the day, his energy counteracts the forces of nature, and he becomes more and more vital. In his retirement, on top of accepting a leadership role in the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute of California State, Fresno, he has gone beyond the borders of age and decided to start a press. By the way, I just happened to talk to my son, who lives in San Jose. He works in San Francisco, his wife in Palo Alto. He moved there some years ago. And since now they are working from home. So they decided to move to Fresno. So he told me that if you need an FEO something, if you want any free consulting for your websites or whatever, that's his field, he will be glad to offer you free consultation. He told me this half an hour before we started this session. Duarte. This initiative may seem rather a countercurrent for anyone familiar with the worldwide shrinking trend of book publishing. For historians, however, this is just one more romantic adventure in a long tradition of book loving. The world around the Azores may move in a different direction, but historians have gotten used to fighting storms and earthquakes for 600 years, all the while acting oblivious to the surroundings. Thus, please do not be surprised by this initiative and this celebratory event. Please join us and trust that something worthwhile will be brought to light that will help us learn more about ourselves in this vast ocean of American culture. Besides, it will help Americans who care to pay attention to learn about this increasingly visible minority called Portuguese, starting with the fact that we are not Puerto Rican, even though there are a few notable Azorians who work and live there. Bruma means cloudy skies. California could welcome some because that would mean rain, something that the Azores could export and make a bundle. No, Bruma is a misnomer. Bruma Publications will add light to sunny Portuguese California. We should all be grateful for the initiative and the power behind it, which had Denise Borges as the driving force. Knowing him, we know that he's certain of his course. We should only wish him good health and good luck.
Thank you, Onésimo. Thank you, especially for up until the last minute and a half or so, but thank you. Enlightening as always. That is why Onésimo is what he is and does what he does. And indeed, as he mentioned, the Gavia Brown, as I mentioned also in the outtake, in 1980. So it's been a few years, and the wonderful work of our friends at Take Express, Paula, who is the director of the Center for Portuguese Studies at University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, was on. She had to go, but she was on for a little while, and we hope to do a lot of cooperative work with Take Express and of course Gavia Brown and everyone else. I'm going to turn just again, thank you, Onésimo, to a couple of other comments, and we'll have a little bit of a session of an open mic as well. And so I'd like to ask our interim associate dean for the College of Arts and Humanities, that is Sergio Laporta, to talk a little bit about our process, the University Press. And when I approached both Dean Chapman and Associate Dean Sergio, they both welcomed the project with open arms. And so, Sergio, if you could take just a couple of minutes to explain to us how this process went and your thoughts on it.
Sure. Thank you very much, Denise. I think it was back in October when Denise reached out to us about the idea of launching a publication project associated with PBBI, and he called it Bruma, which was, as has been noted, incredibly evocative. And I always thought of the mist hanging over the sea and the journey that we could take together in bringing these books to light. And Denise and I went back and forth on a mission statement, and we settled on a publication series that would be dedicated to disseminating works, including translations of enduring scholarly and cultural value, foregrounding the Portuguese American experience in California and the Western United States, and its connection with the Azores and the Portuguese-speaking world. This is a very large mission, but I think it's one that Denise in particular and this wonderful editorial board is prepared to take, and I think it will bring many new works to light to a public that may not be aware of the fantastic contribution of Portuguese and Portuguese Americans to our region, and to American literature as well as to Portuguese literature. On a personal note, this was also very exciting, as I grew up with many Portuguese families, people who worked with my father. I'm originally from New York, and I went to school in New England, was in constant contact with the Portuguese community, both in Boston and Providence, Rhode Island. I've been to the Whaling Museum in New Bedford, which is quite an experience. But and the strangest one, I was in a bar in Geneva, Switzerland, which was a Portuguese bar. And they had all fishing motifs in this landlocked country, and it was really quite a nice evening. But it wasn't really until I came out to California that I learned about the Azorean connection. Everybody had always presented themselves as Portuguese and never gone beyond that. And it was only coming to Fresno that I learned about the significance and the centrality of the Azores to both Portuguese and American history. And so this has been a wonderful journey for me as well personally. And I'm just happy that we're able, as the College of Arts and Humanities, to support this publication series and Denise's wonderful work. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of your help and your wisdom, and of course your guidance. This project couldn't have come through to fruition without your help. You've been kind of the leader of this, not kind of the leader in all the connections with University Press and all the advice that's been invaluable. And we're going to continue to need your advice for a very long time. We are also honored to have yours as a our president, our interim president, mentioned PBBI, and I know that all of you do know that is kind of unique in the aspect that it's a product of 3 colleges. So we work with the College of Arts and Humanities, the College of Social Science, and the Jordan College of Agricultural Science and Technology. Portuguese Americans are deeply involved in agriculture in the Valley, as most of you know. And so we're honored to have one of those deans. The other 2 could not be here because of other commitments, but we are honored to have Dean Nora Chapman, who is the Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities, and who's just always so excited and so supportive. And you know, even when it's something that's hard to do, I know that if I get an email from Nora saying that you know, go for it, do it, it makes my day, even when some things don't go as right as they should. Thank you for all of your support, and we would love if you could also mention a couple of words about Bruma and of course PBBI. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nora Chapman, the interim dean. Thank you so much, Dinesh, for your kind introduction. And thank you all for being here and celebrating Fresno State's press launching Bruma. When Sergio came to tell me the idea that Dinesh had pitched, I thought this is absolutely thrilling because we have only one other series in the press, and that is dedicated to Armenian studies. And it seems so fitting that we have one that also celebrates the Portuguese community in the Valley with the Azorean twist. When I arrived in Fresno in 2002, I went to a dinner party in the first week for honor students, and I sat at a table with a mother and her son, and his name was Michael Fagundes. I came home, I called my dad and I said, Dad, I met a boy named Michael Fagundes who went to school in near Merced. And he said, oh, Nora, I know his grandfather. That's how the Valley works. My dad grew up in Merced, went to school there, and everyone knew everybody. And a small farming communities like that. And then my dad explained the Portuguese mark upon the Valley and how crucial the population is for not only agriculture, but the culture itself, because they go together. The festas, the life of the community. These were my great-grandparents' friends, and they continue today, as you well know, through Dinesh's amazing programming. So the College of Arts and Humanities is very grateful for his hard work in launching Bruma. And I know that Dean Dennis Neff of the Jordan College of Agricultural Sciences and Technology, as well as Interim Dean Jeff Cummins of the College of Social Sciences are really excited about this because they too share a hand in Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean Chapman, Interim Dean for the College of Arts and Humanities. We are also very pleased and honored to have our good friend, the Honorable Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco, Maria João Lopes Cardoso, who has been an important part of PBBI. She's been here various times and has always been a supporter, and we are happy to have her here. After the Consul General, I'd like to open the mic to all of you on the editorial board and the advisory board. If you'd like to share your thoughts with us, we'd be happy to hear from each and every one of you. And now the Honorable Consul General of Portugal in San Francisco, Maria João Lopes Cardoso. Again, thank you so much for the support, and thanks so much for being here today.
Muito obrigada. Boa tarde a todos. Boa tarde ao Presidente Saúl Jimenez-Sandoval, ao Professor Onésimo Almeida e ao meu querido amigo Dinesh Borges. I have to speak in English and then I might say some more words in Portuguese. So I wanted to start by congratulating the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute for all that it has done in the past year since its creation. But then, you know, this being such a secluded group of friends, I need, first of all, to prove that I'm also Azorean, potentially Azorean. So, first of all, my mother is from the Alentejo, and we believe that's from Alentejo that the first continental Portuguese went to the Azores. My great-grandfather was a Republican, and he had a newspaper for 48 years, which was called Rebecca. It was very well known amongst all the Republicans. From 1925 until he died, he was the director of this newspaper. So that's very Azorian as well. And then at last, I lived in Terceira for 2 years, and I taught at the Instituto de Ciências Agrárias of the University of the Azores. So I lived there for 2 years. I have never seen another sea. I've been, for those who know my CV, I've been all over the world. And the most beautiful sea, even more beautiful than my own childhood sea in Portugal, is the sea in the Azores. That's something that I have never seen anywhere else. And even one more reason for you to accept me in your group, all my closest friends in Portugal, the friends of my heart, they're all from the Azores, strangely enough. Not from Terceira, mainly from São Miguel. And then at last, of course, having had the chance of living in California for almost 4 years, I have many, many friends from the Azores as well, from all the islands. But in fact, I have many, that I seem to get along with ones from Pico. I apologize to Denise, who's from Terceira, to Professor Onésimo Almeida, but I have many friends from Pico.
I'm from Pico da Pedra.
Yes, well, it's similar. And so anyway, I'd like to take this opportunity to praise the work of this institute, and in fact to praise the work of my dear friend and honorary consul of Portugal and Tulare, Professor Dinis Borges. He has imagination, he has intelligence, and he's bold, and he's very dedicated. He's very dedicated. So organizing all these, I'm amazed at the amount of lectures and interesting events he has organized before the pandemic and during the pandemic, on themes which matter both to the Portuguese community, but also to the new Portuguese community who are Americans and who have concerns about civil and social issues. So congratulations, Dinis. I think this is a wonderful initiative, and the imagination also goes into the creation of this archive of oral histories of the stories of the Portuguese immigration or migration into California. This is wonderful, and I hope that this will help in a way to reach out to the to the younger community. One of the problems that we are facing here in California, not in all cities. I think Los Angeles, at least the community in Los Angeles, has been able to reach out to younger generations, and it's quite mixed. When I visit Artesia, I see that at the hall, everybody goes and they are very active, perhaps not in in the academic sphere, but they managed to involve in some way the younger generations. And I hope that I know that this is one of the concerns that Dinis has as well, and he has even dedicated one of the interesting events of the how is it, PBBI, I know, Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, to this theme of the future of the Portuguese community in the United States. I didn't understand that we came to any conclusion, but this is something that has to be dealt with. Regarding this initiative of launching the publishing house, Bruma, I think Dinis is dedicated to me, who live in San Francisco, not only to the Azores, yes, because Bruma, it's my daily life. Well, I'm a bookworm, and I'm very, very proud to be a bookworm. So I think this is it's something that I have no words to express. It's really, really unique, and it's really wonderful. You say that I was lucky that during my term in California, so many things happened. And for the first time, we even have a publishing house. So it has nothing to do with me. It has all to do with you, but I'm very honored to be able to witness this moment. So thank you so much, Dinis. Thank you all. And thank you, Professor Onésimo Almeida, because there were some details about the Azores I did not know. And as a bookworm, I enjoyed enormously. So thank you so much for this as well. Muito obrigada, bem-ajam a todos, and please keep safe.
Muito obrigado, Sra. Consul-Geral, Doutora Maria João Lopes Cardoso. We're going to open up the mic. We have just a few more minutes, but if any of you would like to in on the editorial board or the academic board as far as the advisory board, thank you all for attending, and thank you for giving your time to this. The name Bruma, by the way, is not just mine. A lot of people have said that. It actually was in a conversation with someone that I think most of us on here know, even those from this side of the Atlantic, even at the university level. I believe both the dean and associate dean have met him, which is Saúl Teves. He used to be the director of the immigration department for the government of the Azores. He was here to give a lecture last year, and when we were talked about this, Paulo and I having a glass of wine, and talked about this project, and I had like 2 or 3 names, and he said, "I like the name Bruma." And that's just stuck with me, you know. And so I have to give Saúl Teves a shout out, because indeed he was involved in the name. I call him the Padrinho. You know, he was the one that basically rooted for and suggested the name Bruma, which was, you know, we had a few things to discuss, a few of the names, and that was one. So shout out to Paulo, who was on the line also for a little bit. And so mais uma vez, if any of you would like to, I'd love to have a couple of you in your comments. I would like to say that we already have 3 works submitted. One of them, I don't see his face now, but is Professor Manuel Costa Fontes. He has a wonderful collection of oral histories that hasn't been published about the Portuguese in the Valley. It's fascinating. It's wonderful. It's just we'd love to have that as our first publishing book. We have a book that we are considering right now by Carol Gregory. Carol did her PhD in geography in California, and she has mapped out every single Portuguese hall, street, park, every single thing that has a Portuguese name from Arcata to San Diego. It's just fascinating work, and it's something that we need to do, and needs to be updated a little bit. And of course, our good friend who is on the editorial board, also Michael de Matos, is doing a wonderful study on race and class in the integration of the community in Hawaii, the Azori and the Madeiran community, and their integration into Hawaii from a class and race aspect. Onésimo, I think you had something to add.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. I thought you did, because you always have a word of wisdom. So, but I know that you know Manuel Costa Fontes' work, and I know that you
sometimes you have illusions.
And I'm still here. I just lost the picture. I don't know how.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the work is fascinating. I know that Onésimo knows the work well as well, and Manuel Costa Fontes' work is hopefully our first one that we'll be publishing. So,
now I can say this: Manuel Costa Fontes, one of the most hidden treasures of the Portuguese community, is a superb scholar, known very, very well in the Hispanic world, because a big portion of his work has been in the Spanish Siglo de Oro. But he has also worked. He has published, and we in this collection that we are publishing at Imprensa Nacional, we're going to make available in ebook edition is classical recoveries of the Portuguese romanceiro of California, Canada, East Coast, São Jorge, and later on Trás-os-Montes. So that alone would have made a name for him, but he has done that along with a huge, impressive career working on Siglo de Oro in Spanish literature. But the other thing is, when you caught me, I was looking at Sem Pereira. I had no idea that's the Sem Pereira, the poet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was reading it, so you thought I wanted to say something. I was just I want to say hello to him, because I admire his work, and I had never seen him or met him. So
well, that's why we are. By the way, we are restarting our Filamentos Atlântica. We're going to have a virtual session this year in March. We'll be sending you the program, but hopefully we can in 2022 have a presentation where a present symposium and bring back some of the people that have, as Onésimo said, for 12 years contributed immensely to the symposium. We'd love to be able to do that in the future. A couple others. Lélia. Estás em mute, estás em silêncio. Agora.
Agora deu? Bem.
Agora está.
Boa tarde para todos, aqui já é quase noite e eu preciso nesse momento me ausentar, tem uma reunião, um compromisso com a Academia Catarinense de Letras, mas eu não poderia sair não queria sair de fininho assim, né, como quem chegou. Queria deixar um abraço bem grande a todos vocês, cumprimentar especialmente ao Diniz e agradecer muitíssimo o convite que me fez e que honrou de fato sobremaneira. Veio algumas caras que eu já conhecia de nome e outras de grande data, como a Irene, e em especial o Onésimo, que eu incomodo quase que diariamente, sou uma das leitoras das Notas Bárbaras. E, enfim, e dizer da importância que eu considero a criação desse projeto da editora, que tem um nome tão lindo, que são das Ilhas de Bruma, e tenho certeza que as respostas numa produção literária profícua, não só dos açorianos americanos, luso-americanos, descendentes e tudo mais, mas quem sabe também pode pensar numa relação, no intercâmbio com escritores de Santa Catarina que desejam também publicar na editora que agora nasce. Então, estou à disposição de todos, por precisarem, aqui em Florianópolis, na ilha de Santa Catarina. Será sempre um grande prazer revê-los. Uma boa tarde.
Muito obrigado, Lélia. Obrigado. Eu sei que tens que ir. Obrigadíssimo por tudo e obrigado por teres aceito o convite. Eu vou passar assim à volta, portanto, Irene.
Ok.
E depois a Inês, exatamente, ok? Ou vice-versa.
Hello, everyone. And Dinesh, congratulations on this great initiative. Onésimo, it's really nice to listen to you. It is an honor for me as an Azorian and from São Jorge and a Luso-Canadian and an academic to be part of this initiative. Obrigada, Dinesh. Esta é uma iniciativa excelente. Muita sorte com o projeto. E é uma honra para mim estar neste grupo de pessoas, que eu conheço algumas, outras não, mas trabalhar em conjunto será realmente extraordinário. Obrigada.
A honra é nossa, ao contrário. E é um equívoco, mas muito obrigado. A professora Inês, minha colega, e da Universidade Estadual da Califórnia aqui em Fresno.
Hello, I would like to greet all the panelists and of course thank Dinesh for this initiative. I just wanted to briefly speak from the point of view of faculty and the students at Fresno State, because I think that this will be an excellent opportunity for students to have access to literature by the Portuguese Americans and to know more about the Azorian culture in the Valley. This happens, the expansion of the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute through this publishing branch happens also at the time when the Portuguese studies at Fresno State are also expanding with the creation of 2 new minors, a minor in Portuguese studies and minor in Portuguese. And we will open a course in Azorian culture in the fall of 2021. So this will be perfect a perfect opportunity to learn about Azorian history and culture and literature. So we will be, working very closely with Bruma Publications, and I think the students will appreciate this as well. So thank you, Dinesh, and thank you all.
Thank you, Inês. And Inês is actually going to be one of our guest speakers in this semester. So I'll send out the date. And thank you again for your collaboration and on everything that we do. And indeed, it's exciting news about both minors. Anyone else? I don't want to put everybody on the spot. Mas Emiliana. Okay, Duarte, Emiliana também, sim? Okay, Duarte, começa.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Dinesh, for the initiative. This is an initiative whose time has come to the Valley, because most of these initiatives usually happen in the big urban metropolitan areas, and bringing this to the core of the community, the Portuguese community in the Valley, is indeed probably, a first, and certainly will benefit, the entire Portuguese community, but certainly the community in the Valley. I was struck by the term that Dean Laporta used. He used the word grounding the Portuguese literature or literary texts in our community. And I really hope that besides, seeking manuscripts as well as, publishing them, that we also will take the initiative to ground the Portuguese literature in our institutions. And I hope that the Bruma Publications will consider making live presentations, for example, at the library associations, at the California Department of Education, because we need to have the Portuguese literature, the Portuguese cultural texts be a part of the canon of the diversity of literature in California. And the more we can ground that in our institutions, that will then incorporate it into the curricula that our students in primary school, high schools, and colleges can have access to this. I think this is the sort of the legacy of what Bruma Publications that is being created here today will be looked upon 50 years from now. So the more we can ground, to use Dean Laporta's term, this into our institutions, I think the more enduring this initiative will be into the future. Thank you, Denise, for another great initiative amongst so many others.
Thank you, Duarte, and we'll be looking to you for that, for those connections, because you just gave yourself another job
We can do it.
In your emeritus status from Stanford. Duarte and I have been talking about, and the other day, I think it was Duarte that said, you don't do this retirement thing too well, Denise.
No.
And I don't think I do. I don't think I do. But neither does Duarte. Professor Emiliana. I should say that Professor Emiliana now is also, besides being, of course, faculty at the University of the Azores, and has been very instrumental in our exchange program with the students from Fresno State for 5 year now. It predates the institute. She is now the regional director for rural development for the new government of the Azores. And congratulations to you. We're excited about that. Tem que desligar. Não temos o som, Emiliana, se faz favor. Eu faço isso nas minhas aulas todos os dias.
We're all guilty.
Okay.
Agora ouvimos.
Thank you very much for your words. It's an honor for me to belong to this team. And I believe these publications will be a symbol of our Azorean identity. Is Bruma, and that has a special meaning for people that have their roots from the Azores. Thank you a lot for the opportunity, and I hope we can develop other projects together. Thank you.
Thank you. Já agora vamos ouvir de todos, para não ficar ninguém atrás. Sou Renato, o professor Renato Alvim, que é professor de português e espanhol na universidade, aqui o nosso vizinho mais perto, como toda a gente sabe, é um bocado diferente da costa leste da costa oeste aqui, portanto o Renato está em Interlock, nós estamos em Fresno, é 1h40 de viagem, é um vizinho, portanto meu pai há anos teve aqui uma visita da costa leste que vivia em New Bedford e íamos ver uns tios, portanto também tios dele, e meu pai e o senhor Anacleto perguntaram ao meu pai, José, mas isto é muito longe. O homem é aqui perto, é aqui Turlock, é 2 horas de viagem, é perto. E portanto nós temos outro conceito de tempo, do espaço. Renato.
First of all, thank you for including me and always including us Brazilians to these ties who bring much more than just the Portuguese language to our connections. And I just recall, I would say maybe a couple or maybe 3 years ago when we started getting the meetings about getting PBBI all together to strengthen our connections and our will to become more visible as a community. And I think Bruma is just one more great step to achieve that goal. And I thank you very much for being very resilient, very incisive on bringing these ties together and always being very inclusive. And I think it's going to be a great acquisition for our students, also to be able to have access to this rich information that will become a result of these publications. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Renato. Linda. Linda also teaches at Fresno State, a course in communications, and at Reed College.
Yeah, my hobby is teaching for division communication courses. I think I need to, like Denise, I don't think he knows the meaning of the word retirement. I don't know the meaning of the word hobby. I'm currently in Terceira right now. And so Bruma, as you know, in the winter here, it's very live. It's a wonderful perspective. I've been thinking about the name. I'm honored that Denise has invited me to participate with all of you, and I'm excited. I've already read the first possible publication, and I absolutely love it, Manuel. It's just beautiful, and I'm excited for what is to come. So thank you for including me.
Thank you, Linda. And Michael from Hawaii, where it's 2 hours less time, and it's just always beautiful weather as well.
Hola, aloha, and hello. I'm Mike D'Amatos. I was born and raised in Hawaii. My family is from the Azores and Madeira, arriving between 1881 and 1889, and I am fourth generation Portuguese. I was sitting here feeling incredibly connected to the speakers, to President Saúl, and I was trying to figure out why so quick, and Bruma kept running through my head. I was thinking of the mist, the haze, the fog in the Azores, and of course in the Bay Area and on Mount Waialeale, the wettest spot on the planet here in Hawaii. And I imagined that mist and that haze that informs the uncertainty, the hope, the longing, the expectations, hanging over and connecting us. And it felt such a privilege and such an honor in that moment. So I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to the speakers and of course to Denise for inviting me and for including me. I feel incredibly honored and humbled. Mahalo everyone, and thank you for such a wonderful morning.
Thank you. And we're going to end it with the treasure, the hidden treasure, as Professor Onésimo said, Manuel Costa Fontes, who hopefully will be, as I think the word that Renato was trying to describe me is teimoso. But he was being a little bit more gracious, which means stubborn. And so Manuel Costa Fontes' work, and I know that some on the editorial board have had a chance to read it, as Linda pointed out. It's magnificent. It's great. It's just, it fits in with our oral history theme that we've been doing. Manuel, the last word is yours. But first and foremost, thank you for all your work all these years. Estás em silêncio. Estás em silêncio, senão...
Can you hear me now?
Agora sim. Yes.
Okay. I don't know how to work these things. My son set it up and he explained a couple of things to me, but I'm not good at when it comes to technology. I'm terrible. In any case, I'm delighted to have the program now in Fresno, Portuguese Beyond Borders. I'm delighted to see that you have started this new series, Bruma Publications. I am very, very honored to have my book published there. I promised to do these folk tales years ago. I had a grant to do them, but I got involved in other projects, never finished. And now that we can no longer travel, I have nothing else to do, or hardly anything else. So I started working on them, and I think it's the last debt that I have. Once I have paid this debt, I can die in peace. Because
don't you think about dying, okay? For quite a few more years. You have a lot to still to write.
God willing, we'll see. Thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to all of you again. Thanks to FLAD for sponsoring us for 2 years. We hope to have continue with us, the community as well. A million thanks to the Consul General once again for being with us, and to all of you for being part of this new project. Take care, stay safe, and we will see you on the other side. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank
Adeus.
you.
Obrigado a
Thanks,
todos.
Onésimo.
Muito obrigado. Tchau, tchau. Adeus. Obrigado.